The sovereign debt problems in the Eurozone are dominating the headlines at the moment. I asked Adel Azmeh from Lloyds TSB International Private Banking his expert view.
The Eurozone was created at the time on a partnership. They had to respect certain rules, and those rules have not been respected. So investors are just questioning the future of the euro because some countries have cheated, others are now running a lot of deficits. When you have a European Union, you need to stick to the rules. And these days, of course, Germany wants everyone to stick to the rules. But there are a lot of concerns about how to deal with the current situation. So, in a way, investors are right to be concerned about all those issues.
Yeah. And while we're on the subject of the euro, where do you see the euro going in the next month or so?
Well, next month, I think over 3 months to a year, we see it probably going down just because the situation is kind of complicated to solve. You have a lot of people talking in Europe, you have different type of approach, so they need to solve those issues. It is going to take some time, and the Germans are pushing for structured budgetary measures. Others are losing, so the approach is quite kind of different, and this is what is going to create some volatility. Investors like to be sure what's going to happen, and today we have uncertainties on that front.
And there's also uncertainty because Jean-Claude Trichet is going to be retiring later on this year. How do you see that affecting the market?
He's the head of the central bank. Is a very important person. As you know, Weber decided to resign.
That's it.
And that is, of course, people have started to speculate that he resigned because he knew that he will not be able to do what he wants, basically start raising rate and so on. So it looks like the next ECB chief could eventually be a little bit more political, and then therefore the ECB could eventually lose its independence, which could be bad for the currency. So all those are speculation, and the investors are just trying to guess, why he resigned. And he said he resigned for personal reason. We don't know, but probably there's something true to the fact that he didn't want to be told what to do.
Okay. And another thing I want to touch upon is inflation, because inflation rates are soaring throughout Europe, throughout the globe, because of commodity prices. How is that going to be affecting the market?
Well, inflation clearly is the issue, but we think it's really more an issue in emerging markets.
Okay.
Because there the economy are growing quite strongly, so inflation issues there are quite important. In Europe, in Europe and US, we don't think it's going to be a big problem because we have a lot of scale capacity. So we really think inflation is really a problem in emerging markets and not so much in US. Even though you do see some sign of inflation, it can not go on too much because the inflation is economy, even though it's growing, it's still quite fragile. So we don't believe inflation is going to be a problem in US, in Europe, in the next 2 years. Longer term, it may be, but not over a year. We don't think so.
Okay. And while we're talking about the US, Barack Obama revealed the details of his budget earlier on in the week. He's planning to reduce the deficit by 1.1 trillion over the next decade. Do you think that's optimistic? Do you think that's not going too far? Because he has been criticised by the Republicans for not cutting enough.
Yeah, clearly, if you compare it to Europe, what they're doing, it's probably less aggressive. So Republicans may have are probably right to say that it's not going enough. But the US is really trying to tackle the issue differently. They really want the economy to grow, and once it's growing and it's in a good footing, then they will be able to solve those issues. So they're really going for growth, whereas in Europe they're going for deficit cuts. We don't know which one is going to work. We clearly know that all countries need to cut the deficit longer term, but is it good to do it very aggressively on a near term? It's a question mark.
What about the dollar then? Where do you see that going in the short term?
Well, we think that the dollar is going to be direction is going to be dictated by the growth differential. The U.S. economy grew at 3.2% in the fourth quarter. if you take out the inventory adjustment, it grew close to 7%. And the first quarter, we think is going to grow around 4%. So the near-term momentum for the economy is quite strong. Therefore, we think maybe there's a chance that QE2 will end in May. So strong economy plus the end of the quantitative easing measure could be eventually positive for the dollar.
And as far as QE3 is concerned, do you see that happening? Is that a possibility?
Well, it's a possibility, but I really think the probability of that occurring has declined quite dramatically. One, because the Congress is quite against this. Secondly, because the economy is in a good footing, so it's going to be difficult to go QE3 if the economy is growing at around 4%. So we think the probability of QE3, while still existing, is lower than in the past.
And if we just go back to Europe for a minute or two, you've had trouble in Ireland, Greece, Portugal. What do you think is going to happen now? Do you think more countries are going to be asking for bailouts? What is the answer to this? Because obviously Germany is pushing it, as you say.
It's quite complicated. I mean, clearly Germans want all countries to manage the budget in a good way, which is the right thing to do longer term. But if they were too aggressive, they could re-enter recession, and then of course deficit will increase. So it's a really difficult situation. We think the best thing to do is to cut deficit, but take some time, not do it aggressively. But of course, those countries now are being pushed to take drastic measures because Germans want them to do so.
For all the latest fundamental news affecting the currency markets, stay tuned to Dukascopy TV.